Chapter 38 of Book 1 of Prior Analytics by Aristotle. Chapter 38 of Propositional Iteration and the Addition to a Predicate. Whatever is reiterated in the propositions must be annexed to the major and not to the middle term. I mean, for instance, if there should be a syllogism, that there is a science of justice, because it is good, the expression, because it is good, or, in that it is good, must be joined to the major. For let A be, science, that it is good, B good, and C justice. A then is truly predicated of B, since of good there is science, that it is good, but B is also true of C, for justice is what is good, thus therefore the solution is made. Example 1. Of good there is science, that it is good. Justice is good. Therefore, of justice there is science that it is good. But if, that it is good, be added to B, it will not be true, for A will indeed be truly predicated of B, but it will not be true that B is predicated of C, since to predicate of justice, good that it is good, is false, and not intelligible. So also it may be shown that the healthy is an object of science, in that it is good, or that hercoservice is an object of opinion, quod its nonentity, or that man is corruptible, so far as he is sensible. For in all superpredications we must annex the repetition to the major term. The position of the terms is nevertheless not the same when a thing is syllogistically inferred simply, and when this particular thing, or in a certain respect, or in a certain way. For instance, I mean as when good is shown to be an object of science, and when it is shown to be so because it is good. But if it is shown to be an object of science simply, we must take being as the middle term. Example 2. Every being is an object of science. Good is being. Therefore, good is an object of science. If it is proved that it may be scientifically known to be good, a certain being must be taken as the middle, for let A be science, that it is a certain being, B a certain being, and C good. To predicate then A of B is true, for there is science of a certain being, that it is a certain being, but B is also predicated of C, because C is a certain being. Therefore, A will be predicated of C. Hence there will be science of good, that it is good, for the expression, a certain being, is the sign of peculiar or proper essence. If, on the other hand, being is set as the middle, and being simply and not a certain being is added to the extreme, there will not be a syllogism that there is a science of good, that it is good, but that it is being. For example, let A be science that it is being, B being, and C good. Example 3. Of being there is science, that it is being. Good is being. Therefore, of good there is science, that it is being. In such syllogisms then as are from a part, we must clearly take the terms after this manner. Chapter 39. The simplification of terms in the solution of syllogism. We must also exchange those which have the same import, nouns for nouns, and sentences for sentences, and a noun and a sentence, and always take the noun for the sentence, for thus the exposition of the terms will be easier. For example, if there is no difference in saying that what is supposed is not the genus of what is opined, or that what is opined is not anything which may be supposed, for the signification is the same, instead of the sentence already expressed, we must take what may be supposed and what may be opined as terms. Chapter 40. The definite article to be added according to the nature of the conclusion. Since, however, it is not the same for pleasure to be good and for pleasure to be the good, we must not set the terms alike. But if there is a syllogism that pleasure is the good must be taken as a term, if that it is good, good must be taken, and so of the rest. Chapter 41. On the distinction of certain forms of universal predication. It is neither in fact nor in word the same thing to assert that A is present with every individual with which B is present, and to say that A is present with every individual of what B is present with, since there is nothing to prevent B from being with C, yet not with every C. For instance, let B be beautiful, but C white. If then beautiful is with something white, it is true to say that beauty is present with what is white, yet not perhaps with everything white. If then A is with B, but not with everything of which B is predicated, individual of which B is predicated, signifies that of whatever B is predicated, of all these A is predicated also, and if B is predicated of every, A will also thus be predicated, but if it is not predicated of every individual, it is not necessary that A should be predicated of every individual. Still, we need not imagine that any absurdity will occur from this exposition, for we do not use the expression that this is a particular definite thing, but as a geometrician says that this is a foot in length, is a straight line, and is without breadth, though it is not so, he does not however so use them as if he inferred from these. In a word, that which is not as a whole to a part, and something else in reference to this as a part to a whole, from nothing of these can a demonstrator demonstrate, wherefore neither is there a syllogism, but we use exposition as we do sense, when we address a learner, since we do not use it so, as if it were impossible to be demonstrated without these, as we use propositions from which a syllogism is constructed. Chapter 42. That not all conclusions in the same syllogism are produced through one figure. Let us not forget that all conclusions in the same syllogism are not produced by one figure, but one through this figure and another through that, so that clearly we must make the resolutions in the same manner. But since not every problem is proved in every figure, but arranged in each, it is evident from the conclusion in what figure the inquiry must be made. Chapter 43. Of arguments against definition, simplified. With regard, however, to arguments against definition, and by which a particular thing in the definition is attacked, that term must be laid down which is attacked, and not the whole definition, for it will result that we shall be less disturbed by prolixity, e.g. if we are to show that water is humid potable, we must place potable and water as terms. Chapter 44. Of the reduction of hypotheticals and of syllogisms ad impossible. We must not endeavour, moreover, to reduce hypothetical syllogisms, for we cannot reduce them from the things laid down, since they are not proved syllogistically, but are all of them admitted by consent. Thus if a man, supposing that except there is one certain power of contraries, there will neither exist one science of them, it should afterwards be dialectically proved that there is not one power of contraries, for instance, of the wholesome and of the unwholesome, for the same thing will be wholesome and unwholesome at the same time. Here it will be shown that there is not one power of all contraries, but that it is not a science has not been shown. We must yet acknowledge that there is, not however by syllogism, but by hypothesis, wherefore we cannot reduce this, but that we may, viz. That there is not one power, for this perhaps was a syllogism, but that an hypothesis. The same thing happens in the case of syllogisms, which infer a consequence per impossible, since neither can we analyze these, though we may a deduction to the impossible, for it is demonstrated by syllogism, but the other we cannot, for it is concluded from hypothesis. They differ nevertheless from the before named, because we must in them indeed have admitted some thing previously, if we are about to consent, as if, for example, one power of contraries should have been shown, and that there was the same science of them. Now here they admit what they had not allowed previously, on account of the evident falsity, as if the diameter of a square having been admitted commensurable with the side, odd things should be equal to even. Many others also are concluded from hypothesis, which it is requisite to consider, and clearly explain. What then are the differences of these, and in how many ways an hypothetical syllogism is produced, we will show hereafter. At present, let only so much be evident to us, that we cannot resolve such syllogisms into figures, for what reason we have shown. Chapter 45. The reduction of syllogisms from one figure to another. As many problems as are demonstrated in many figures, if they are proved in one syllogism, may be referred to another, e.g. a negative in the first may be referred to the second, and one in the middle to the first, still not all, but some only. This will appear from the following. If A is with no B, but B with every C, A is with no C. Thus the first figure arises. But if the negative is converted, there will be the middle, for B will be with no A, and with every C. In the same manner, if the syllogism be not universal, but particular, as if A is with no B, but B is with a certain C, for the negative being converted, there will be the middle figure. Of syllogisms, however, in the middle figure, the universal will be reduced to the first, but only one of the particular. For let A be with no B, but with every C. Then by conversion of the negative, there will be the first figure, since B will be with no A, but A with every C. Now, if the affirmative be added to B, and the negative to C, we must take C as the first term, since this is with no A, but A is with every B, wherefore C is with no B. Neither will B be with any C, for the negative is converted. If, however, the syllogism be particular, when the negative is added to the major extreme, it will be reduced to the first figure, as if A is with no B, but with a certain C. For by conversion of the negative there will be the first figure, since B is with no A, but A with a certain C. When, however, the affirmative is joined to the greater extreme, it will not be resolved, as if A is with every B, but not with every C. For the proposition A, B does not admit conversion, nor if it were made would there be a syllogism. Again, not all in the third figure will be resolvable into the first, but all in the first will be into the third. For let A be with every B, but B with a certain C. Since then a particular affirmative is convertible, C will be with a certain B, but A was with every B, so that there is the third figure. Also, if the syllogism be negative, there will be the same result, for the particular affirmative is convertible, wherefore A will be with no B, but with a certain C. Of the syllogisms in the last figure, one alone is not resolvable into the first. When the negative is not placed universal, all the rest, however, are resolved. For let A and B be predicated of every C. C, therefore, is convertible partially to each extreme, wherefore it is present with a certain B, so that there will be the first figure if A is with every C, but C with a certain B, and if A is with every C, but B with a certain C, the reasoning is the same. For B reciprocates with C, but if B is with every C, and A with a certain C, B must be taken as the first term, for B is with every C, but C with a certain A, so that B is with a certain A. Since, however, the particular is convertible, A will also be with a certain B. If the syllogism be negative, when the terms are universal, we must assume in like manner, for let B be with every C, but A with no C, wherefore C will be with a certain B, but A with no C, so that C will be the middle term. Likewise, if the negative is universal, but the affirmative particular, for A will be with no C, but C with a certain B. If, however, the negative be taken as particular, there will not be a resolution, e.g., if B is with every C, but A not with a certain C. For by conversion of the proposition B, C, both propositions will be partial. It is clear then that in order mutually to convert these figures, the minor premise must be converted in either figure. For this being transposed, a transition is effected. Of syllogisms in the middle figure, one is resolved, and the other is not resolved into the third. For when the universal is negative, there is a resolution. For if A is with no B, but with a certain C, both similarly reciprocate with A, wherefore B is with no A, but C with a certain A. The middle then is A. When, however, A is with every B, and is not with a certain C, there will not be resolution, since neither proposition after conversion is universal. Syllogisms also of the third figure may be resolved into the middle, when the negative is universal, as if A is with no C, but B is with some, or with every C, for C will be with no A, but will be with a certain B. But if the negative be particular, there will not be a resolution, since a particular negative does not admit conversion. We see then that the same syllogisms are not resolved in these figures, which were not resolved into the first figures, and that when syllogisms are reduced to the first figure, these only are concluded per impossible. How therefore we must reduce syllogisms, and that the figures are mutually resolvable, appears from what has been said. Chapter 46. Of the quality and signification of the definite, and indefinite, and privative. There is some difference in the construction or subversion of a problem, whether we suppose the expressions, "not to be this particular thing," and "to be not this particular thing," have the same or different signification, e.g., "not to be white," and "to be not white." Now they do not signify the same thing, neither of the expression "to be white" is the negation "to be not white," but "not to be white." And the reason of this is as follows: the expression "he is able to walk" is similar to "he is able not to walk." The expression "it is white" to "it is not white," and "he knows good" to "he knows what is not good," for these "he knows good" or "he has a knowledge of good" does not at all differ, neither "he is able to walk" and "he has the power of walking," wherefore also the opposites "he is not able to walk" and "he has not the power of walking" do not differ from each other. If then "he has not the power of walking" signifies the same as "he has the power of not walking," these will be at one and the same time present with the same, for the same person is able to walk and not to walk, and is cognizant of good and of what is not good, but affirmation and negation being opposites are not at the same time present with the same thing. Since therefore it is not the same thing "not to know good" and "to know what is not good," neither is it the same thing to be "not good" and "not to be good," since of things having analogy, if the one is different, the other also differs, neither is it the same to be "not equal" and "not to be equal." For to the one, namely, to that which is not equal, something is subjected, and this is the unequal, but to the other there is nothing subjected, wherefore not every thing is equal or unequal, but every thing is equal or not equal. Besides this expression, it is not white wood, and this not is white wood, are not present together at the same time, for if it is wood not white, it will be wood, but what is not white wood is not of necessity wood, so that it is clear that of it is good the negation is not, it is not good. If then of every one thing either the affirmation or negation is true, if there is not negation, it is evident that there will in some way be affirmation, but of every affirmation there is negation, and hence of this the negation is, it is not good. They have this order indeed with respect to each other. Let to be good be A, not to be good B, to be not good C, under B, not to be not good D, under A. With every individual then either A or B will be present, and each with nothing which is the same, and C or D with every individual, and with nothing which is the same, and with whatever C is present, B must necessarily be present with every individual, for if it is true to say that a thing is not white, it is also true to say that not it is white, for a thing cannot at one and the same time be white and not white, or be wood not white and be white wood, so that unless there is affirmation, negation will be present. C, however, is not always consequent to B, for in short, what is not wood will not be white wood. On the contrary, with whatever A is present, D also is present with every individual, for either C or D will be present. As however, to be not white, and to be white, cannot possibly co-subsist, D will be present, for of what is white, we may truly say that it is not white, yet A is not predicated of every D, for in short, we cannot truly predicate A of what is not wood, namely to assert that it is white wood, so that D will be true, and A will not be true, namely that it is white wood. It appears also that A and C are present with nothing identical, though B and D may be present with the same. Privatives also subsist similarly to this position with respect to attributes, for let equal be A, not equal B, unequal C, not unequal D. In many things also, with some of which the same thing is present, and not with others, the negative may be similarly true, that not all things are white, or that not each thing is white, but that each thing is not white, or that all things are not white, is false. So also of this affirmation, every animal is white, the negation is not, every animal is not white, for both are false, but this, not every animal is white, since however it is clear that is not white signifies something different from not is white, and that one is affirmation and the other negation, it is also clear that there is not the same mode of demonstrating each. For example, whatever is an animal is not white, or happens not to be white, and that we may truly say, it is not white, for this is to be not white. Still there is the same mode as to it is true to say it is white or not white, for both are demonstrated constructively, through the first figure, since the word "true" is similarly arranged with "is." For of the assertion, "it is true to say it is white," the negation is not, "it is true to say it is not white," but, "it is not true to say it is white." But if it is true to say, "whatever is a man is a musician, or is not a musician," we must assume that, "whatever is an animal is either a musician or is not a musician," and it will be demonstrated, but that "whatever is a man is not a musician," is shown negatively according to the three modes stated. In short, when A and B are so, as that they cannot be simultaneously in the same thing, but one of them is necessarily present to every individual, and again C and D likewise, but A follows C and does not reciprocate, D will also follow B and will not reciprocate, and A and D may be with the same thing, but B and C cannot. In the first place then, it appears from this that D is consequent to B, for since one of C, D is necessarily present with every individual, but with what B is present, C cannot be, because it introduces with itself A, but A and B cannot consist with the same. D is evidently a consequent. Again, since C does not reciprocate with A, but C or D is present with every, it happens that A and D will be with the same thing, but B and C cannot, because A is consequent to C, for an impossibility results, wherefore it appears plain that neither does B reciprocate with D, because it would happen that A is present together with D. Sometimes also it occurs that we are deceived by such an arrangement of terms, because of our not taking opposites rightly, one of which must necessarily be with every individual, as if A and B cannot be simultaneously with the same, but it is necessary that the one should be with what the other is not, and again C and D in like manner, but A is consequent to every C, for B will happen necessarily to be with that with which D is, which is false, for let the negative of A, B, which is F, be assumed, and again the negative of C, D, and let it be H. It is necessary then that either A or F should be with every individual, since either affirmation or negation must be present. Again also either C or H, for they are affirmation and negation, and A is by hypothesis present with everything with which C is, so that H will also be present with whatever F is. Again, since of F, B, one is with every individual, and so also one of H, D, and H is consequent to F, B will also be consequent to D, for this we know. If then A is consequent to C, B will also follow D, but this is false, since the sequence was the reverse in things so subsisting, for it is not perhaps necessary that either A or F should be with every individual, neither F nor B, for F is not the negative of A, since of "good" the negation is not good, and it is not good, is not the same with it is neither good nor not good, it is the same also of C, D, for the assumed negatives are two. End of chapter 46, and end of book 1 of Prior Analytics. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards.